The party that controls the White House gets the last word in presidential conventions. And so for the Democrats, as they come here now to Philadelphia, their challenge, counter Donald Trump's convention call to arms.
Together, we will lead our party back to the White House, and we will lead our country back to safety, prosperity, and peace. We will be a country of generosity and warmth, but we will also be a country of law and order.
Now, a lot of critics found that speech dark, even alarmist, but Trump is making a bet. 2/3 of Americans already think the country's off on the wrong track. Economic anxiety drives most of that, and Trump believes when you add in recent police shootings at home, terror abroad, that enough voters will share his crisis mood and want something different.
This is the legacy of Hillary Clinton: death, destruction, terrorism, and weakness. But Hillary Clinton's legacy does not have to be America's legacy.
We talked a bit about this before, but the challenge here, I mean, Trump is the challenger. He views Hillary as the incumbent. And some strategists tell you if you have a challenger incumbent environment, A, stir up a lot of controversy, but B, try to create a crisis atmosphere. And Trump may not have to create it. It may be out there.
Absolutely.
He's exaggerating it, though,
He
very
is exaggerating it.
significantly.
I mean, if you talk to voters, there is a lot of anxiety. Definitely. That is not a misread of the electorate on his part. But I also find that voters do not generally feel in their lives like things are coming apart at the seams. And he does risk, I think, overplaying his hand here. I think he would be more successful if he did try to focus more on Hillary Clinton, what she did in the Obama administration, and how that is affecting the current climate.
So if he might be overplaying it, here's a question. The President of the United States is a key asset for Hillary Clinton. Is he underplaying it?
This vision of violence and chaos everywhere doesn't really jibe with the experience of most people. I mean, I hope people the next morning walked outside and the birds were chirping and the sun was out.
It was fascinating to me in Trump's speech is that he started by making a case against Obama. Before he got to Clinton, he was making the case against the incumbent president, which is key to this change environment. You need something different. When the president talks about the birds chirping and everything, again, could that almost seem too soft?
I mean, I think it can. I really think that there is deep, deep anxiety out there. You know, in terms of economic anxiety, voters will say to you, well, I'm doing okay, but I know a lot of people who are working 2 jobs now to make what they were making before. I'm worried about my kids' retirement. On the national security anxiety, there is real fear that these attacks are happening in random places, that it's here in our country, and you know that terrorism, you know, is not under control, and that Hillary Clinton, Trump, of course, is making the argument that Hillary Clinton would be a 3rd term of President Obama. And I think a lot of voters are open to hearing from both sides, you know, what they would do to actually handle what they do see as chaos.
With the caveat that a national security event this fall would have a dramatic effect on the American psyche, I actually don't think it's that bad right now for Democrats. President Obama's numbers are above 50% for the first time in a long time. The unemployment rate is now below 5%. He got reelected when the unemployment rate was far higher than that. And again, they are running against somebody who is simply unacceptable to wide swaths of the electorate. And this is not a national election. If Donald Trump can't carry Florida, Virginia, Colorado, and Nevada, he's going to have to basically pull a perfect straight across the Rust Belt to win. And that's a very unlikely scenario.
Unlikely, perhaps, but one of the things he hopes sells there, and we heard at the convention, in the old days, we always talked about at a convention, you move to the middle. If you're a Republican, you went right in the primaries, you moved to the middle. Democrat, you went left in the primaries, you moved to the middle. Donald Trump, maybe on a couple of things, moved to the middle, but on the issue of immigration, we talk about how much he needs Latino votes. Donald Trump doubled down.
We are going to build a great border wall to stop illegal immigration, to stop the gangs and the violence, and to stop the drugs from pouring into our communities.
Right.
is a huge gamble.
You cannot get more of a clear choice. You saw Tim Kaine yesterday. We're for a path to citizenship, not legal status. Trump says we're going to build a wall.
I mean, the fact that he hasn't moderated his message really at all, and even on the Muslim ban, as we heard, he's talked about how his most recent language expands it, right? I mean, I think that is a huge problem for the campaign going forward. But Trump seems just to want to stay right on that message and stick with it.
And as what Jonathan said, I mean, it has to be a straight win all across the Rust Belt, including here in Pennsylvania. And that, there's no doubt states like Pennsylvania, Ohio, maybe even Michigan, much more competitive than 4 years ago. But it is still difficult to believe that we're going to defy recent electoral history here.
We did it. We did in the primaries. The question is, will we in the
But it's a
general
bigger
election?
audience, and the reality is we're going to hear a couple people on this stage. One is Michelle Obama. We had her in the clip earlier there. Boy, is she a big asset here in terms of getting younger voters out and African-American voters out. She is, I'm told, so invested in this election. It's personal for her, too, and it's all against Donald Trump.
Neil, remember the birther issue. This is very personal for the Obamas. This is not just keep a Democrat in the White House. It's keep that guy out of the White House.
There is not a good track record, though, of President Obama turning out his voters for candidates besides himself. Keep in mind, 2010, 2014, he and Michelle Obama spent a lot of time trying to get the Obama coalition out for other candidates.
But I would say this is a
do.
different scenario when
Yes.
Donald Trump's on the
I agree with
on
that.
the edge of moving into that
But
house.
it's hard transferring popularity, is what I'm saying.
We're
doubt,
mentioning
no
this
doubt.
industrial Rust Belt, including this state here in Pennsylvania. One place Trump is different from other Republicans is he says, I'm against globalism, the false song of globalism, he calls it. And he's promising the little guy, even though he's the billionaire businessman, listen, he tells the little guy, I'm with you.
These are the forgotten men and women of our country, and they are forgotten, but they're not going to be forgotten long. People who work hard but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
I think I was not terribly articulate about it when we were talking about Hillary Clinton earlier, but that's the challenge there. As Trump says, I am your voice. She has to convince people, right? It's the old, I'm on your side. She has to convince people here, no, don't buy into that, and then tell them why it should be her.
And just think about how implausible that statement is by Donald Trump. I mean, this is a billionaire who, has not been, down in the maw with voters who are struggling, but he seems to be doing a better job right now of really tapping into that economic anxiety. And I don't know that she has quite found the message yet to overcome that.
One thing
Interesting, you mentioned Tim Kaine, son of a welder, works with his hands. Maybe he can help her with the blue-collar language, if you will. You get it when the calluses and the burns and all that. If you grow up with it, my dad worked with his hands. If you grow up with it, you see it.